Welcome back to the channel. My name is Mark. I hope you all are having a fantastic day or evening. In today's story, Op found out his spouse cheated on him with his own son after they met at a bar, then got drunk and slept together. There's no absolute worst betrayal than your own spouse and son doing something like this. The Op then rightfully kicked them out immediately and went no contact. Now they're both homeless. Let's get into today's story to find out what happened. I was a young dad, my now late wife, and I had my son before we were even 17. She sadly died suddenly at 22 not long after we got married, and I've been a single dad since. It's been tough. But I think up until this, I did my best. I hadn't had time to have any relationships really up until I met her. I threw myself into being a dad and concentrating on my business. I'm not saying I've been a monk. I just have not had anything serious. Never anyone serious enough to introduce my son to. But just under 3 years ago I met AJ. I wasn't expecting it. But before long, I was head over heels. The first 6 months or so were more casual. But when we realized we loved each other, we made it official. I was even planning to ask her to marry me next month on her 26th birthday. I was even going to ask my son to be my best man. I didn't introduce them at first due to not being sure how he'd take it. So we waited a while. But after they met last year, we've since all hung out and everything has all been good. Granted, this year, they haven't seen each other much due to lockdown and him being at uni, but I didn't think anything of that. I couldn't see her much this last month due to the lockdown again. However, I've noticed as the past couple of weeks have gone on that she had been a bit quiet and moody. I had asked her about it and she put it down to being overwhelmed. Likewise, I have noticed it in my son being a bit withdrawn, but I assumed he's been busy with uni. When I finally saw her again this weekend, I really noticed. So I called her out on it. She broke down and admitted she cheated on me just like that. I was shocked. So I was trying to get it out of her and she admitted it was with my son just before lockdown started in November. She was out with her mates and she bumped into my son in the pub. They got pissed, shared a taxi and ended up drunkenly having sex. I basically threw her out there and then saying I never wanted to see her again. She was begging me, pleading and making a scene and everything. I then asked my son to come over and I confronted him. He admitted it was true. He said it was a huge mistake and begged me to forgive him. I told him he needed to stay at someone's house and that I didn't want to look at him anymore. He's at my mom's. I haven't told her what he did, but she knows it's serious, seeing as how close we have always been. She's been ringing me, sending me emails, texting me begging for another chance. And so has my son. I've packed up the stuff that she left here and left it in her front garden in a bin bag. I've even shocked her Christmas presents. I've got her two, let her enjoy them early. I'm absolutely distraught. They're the two people I loved most in the world. I wanted to marry her, maybe have kids and spend my life with her. Likewise. He was more than my son. He was my best friend. I sacrificed so much to give him an amazing life and they've both stabbed me in the back in the worst way. I don't think I'll ever forgive them ever again. They're welcome to each other. As far as I'm concerned, I feel so hurt. Update. I wasn't planning to originally do an update because of so many abusive comments/texts received last time. But on the other hand, I had so much support. I thought I'd update those who have been supportive. So I basically met up with AJ, my ex. I asked her the truth, what went on and whether there was anything else going on previously. She was really passionately saying, no, it literally was a case of her having a drink with her mates and my son was in the pub and they got drunk together when they were sharing a taxi. He admitted he liked her, made a pass, and that was it. She was saying things like she'd never ever do it normally. But because she hadn't seen me for a little while and he reminded her of me so much that night, it just happened. I told her to stop blaming the booze or anyone else and that she needed to own it. No one else. I also was honest with her that she was the first person I've let in and loved since my ex-wife died. And I've been happier with her in the past 3 years than I was for years before that. I told her I was even going to propose to her. She broke down, telling me again how sorry she was and asking me for another chance and saying that she would never forgive herself. I told her she needed to one day so she could learn from this, but that it was over for us. I would be blocking her number and email, and I didn't want any contact again. Then I left. I feel much better after meeting her, as devastated as I am. I do feel like that's a bit of closure, simply to see that I don't really hate her, but actually pity her through not being able to control her alcohol or keep it in her pants. It's cost her a relationship with someone she cares about and likely will affect her relationships for years to come. Not that I don't think she's any less responsible or deserves the outcome. It also helped me to truly see how immature she is before this. I was blissfully ignorant because I was happy. Now it's made me really conscious of it. Never again. Now my son, I realized the other day when I made my post, I was very angry, and the way I was typing, it seemed like it was going to flat out to sound him. But let me stress, he's my son, my flesh and blood, and I love him dearly. He's also my wife's son, and I could never just get rid of him for her. But he has let me down and really hurt me massively, and I have lost not just all respect but trust in him. So I met him also and heard his side of the story. It was largely the same as hers. But the difference was he said she was being really flirty with him, and she said he really reminded her of me. And that's when he told her he had a crush and made his move. I told him what I wrote out above, that I love him but have no respect for him or can trust him anymore. I told him also about my plans, that I was going to propose to her and even have him as my best man. He was gutted, just really silent, and started crying. I told him we needed to have no contact for a while, that he needed to get a job and not work with me on weekends as he does at the moment. And we needed to talk to my folks to see if he could stay with them for a bit. But in order to do so, I wanted him to be a grown-up and tell them why to their face and deal with it as a grown-up. So I drove him there and made him tell them. They were devastated, not just upset, but the look in my mom's eye, I'll never get over that. She told him how disappointed she was in him and that she never thought he'd do something like this. I asked her if he could stay there for the foreseeable future, but not for free. He had to pay his own way, proper board, contribute towards the bills, buy his own food. She agreed out of respect for me. I also sat him down and showed him that I transferred over a large amount of money and explained that was the money I was saving for a JS engagement ring. But seeing as what had happened, I wanted him to have that as a reminder and to use it to pay his grandparents' rent. If nothing else, he was absolutely stunned at that, trying to give it back to me. I told him if he did that, we definitely were done. We've agreed on no contact, at least until Christmas, and then we all, me, him, my folks, could spend Christmas together. I've been largely reflecting for the past few days, mainly on me and why I went for AJ in the first place. I was extremely flattered when she asked me out, even though I'd never normally consider anyone that young. But in hindsight, she was the same age as my wife when she died, had the same ethnicity, mixed race, and also even did the same sort of job. So I guess I went for it because she was like my late wife, which honestly makes me really sad. I know I can't blame anyone else for that. But it made me realize also that AJ was only my second ever serious relationship in my life. Like, imagine that a 37-year-old guy having that few relationships, that a girl, 5 years older than my son, is a huge chunk of my relationship experience. It also makes me miss my wife massively. I've been just having a bit of me time the past few days, having Alan Partridge Marathon. That was mine. And my wife's favorite thing to watch together. It helps me feel close to her when I'm down. I'm seeing if I can get in touch with the old therapist I was seeing after my wife died and make an appointment with him. I might see if he can take my son on to edit. A few people have pointed out we might not be able to see the same therapist due to a conflict of interest. I didn't think of that. So maybe I'll get a recommendation from him for someone else suitable. Thank you. I definitely need to work on myself before I ever date again. I think I have too many issues to be a good partner at the moment. And when I do, I'm not dating anyone her age again. I think I'll do a strictly 80s policy of only going for people born in the 80s and definitely no one born after 1989. Wow, you handled an incredibly difficult situation very well. You should be extremely proud of that. Many people in your position would have lost their minds with rage and grief when I read your bit about how much AJ reminded you of your wife. I can't help but think that perhaps this was something of a rebound for you. Loss, being as profound as it is incredibly complicated. My thought is that you found aspects of your wife and AJ, maybe even recognized them subconsciously. And despite the time that had passed, decided to pursue the closest person to your wife you had met since she died. It could explain what attracted you to AJ in the first place, what kept you with her, and what allowed you to ignore the immaturity you recognized in your reflections. It may also explain why you were so keenly feeling the pain of losing your wife again. You just lost the two people who reminded you of her the most. Your son will come back, but age never will. And in that way, you have lost your wife again. Loss is such a traumatic event, especially sudden loss, and the damage it causes does not heal quickly. In fact, some of it never heals at all. But there is no timeline for recovery. It is not linear. I hope you do not take this event and use it as a reason to never try again. You will recover and you will likely love again, but it may be time for you to begin to accept that you will never love another woman the way you love your wife. That's okay, because that's life. Now, let's get into today's second story. I recently found out that my wife of 19 years was having an EA that turned a bit physical. D-Day was back in mid-June. She had a friendship with her middle son's best friend's dad. We'll call him D, that I became worried about when she wanted to go out to get drinks with him one night. Instead of coming home, I saw the writing on the wall. The next day I checked her phone for the first time. Really just to check on the timeline after asking me if she could go out versus contacting him, and found that she had deleted all of her previous messages. I confronted her. And after denying it for a while, she admitted to having an inappropriate relationship with this guy. It was only after she read up on emotional affairs online that she admitted to having one. The next day, she also learned that to get through it, she had to come clean. So she opened up about past affairs/inappropriate relationships she had sought. I asked her to put together a disclosure letter in which she detailed this 1 year into the marriage. Held hands with T when alone during a ski trip, dirty, danced with him in front of his girlfriend when I was out of town, went to see him at his hotel room when I was not around. She said nothing happened. 4 years into the marriage, invited her boss M and friend P, who she saw with a prostitute the night before, up to her room during a conference trip to Asia. Had drinks, traded massages with P, laid on the bed while they poured beer into her mouth and said it was the sexiest thing he ever saw, and allowed M to play with her underwear while they laid on the bed together watching TV. 5 years into the marriage, during an alumni weekend that I did not attend, she played footsie and snuggled with my best friend before sleeping in the same bed with him. Nothing else happened. I don't think my friend would have done anything more. He was a known drunk smuggler. 5 years into the marriage, during another work trip, she planned to get a large hotel room to entertain and invited over some friends she had met during some work training, including a woman that she was attracted to. She said that she was worried she might be bi and had a lot to drink. Someone suggested a strip drinking game, and it turned into an orgy where she did oral on the girl she found attractive and made out with multiple girls the whole night, and also kissed the only guy there. She says she did not have sex other than giving oral since she was on her period. Since D-Day, she is trying to do her part. We are both doing therapy. I'm very codependent, turns out, and I'm starting to see how messed up she is mentally. She seems like she has some narcissistic tendencies, like needing constant affection from other people and seeking those relationships that even she admits are with unscrupulous guys. As she is interested to see where it goes. She has told me that for a while. She had one foot in and one foot out in our relationship. Even though we have 3 awesome sons, she had trouble bonding with them when they were born and just recently dropped the bomb that all along she thought that she stayed in the relationship for me and that these things that she did were her way of making it so that she could stay with me. This, of course, is no longer what she thinks as we attempt. Now she sees all the errors of her way and wants to learn how to feel empathy again and love me as I should. I wanted to do for the sake of our boys. But after you tell someone that you were only in a marriage of almost 20 years just to keep me happy and had to cheat to do it. I just don't see how I can be with this person. I mean, I love my kids, but I feel like she wasted 20 years of my life and I have no idea how I will ever trust her again. If I didn't out her, she would have gone to her grave with this stuff. I know I'm not perfect. I've got anger issues sometimes and contributed to the circumstances that caused her to feel like maybe she couldn't be all in. But when I asked why she didn't tell me about the first instance or the orgy, she admitted that it was because I would have broken up with her. So, which is it? Did you want to be with me back then or not? I'm having trouble with the fact that you actually believe that she never in almost 20 years of cheating, never slept with any of these men. She is definitely gaslighting and downplaying the living daylights out of you. What surprises me is that you actually believe her. This is the same woman that has disrespected and made a mockery out of your marriage and vows, and you just believe that nothing happened with any of these men. Why, she's a proven liar and serial cheater. So again, why? Because she said so. I think you need a bit of a reality check here, brother. Maybe threaten her with a polygraph test. You don't have to follow through to see if she's telling you the whole truth. I think you will probably be surprised by her reaction. Good luck, brother. I think you are in for one hell of a ride with this deceitful woman. Thank you for taking the time to listen to today's stories. If you enjoyed the stories, please don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already. If there is a story you would like to share with me about your own situation, please do not hesitate to contact me. Take care.